Hey, welcome. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Scoundrel today and how you can maximize his really his passive strengths in crowd control. So first off, you're probably a ranged DPS class and build to be choosing the Scoundrel over the Templar or the Enchantress. And let's take a look at his character sheet here for an example. So skill build first. He's got a passive slow he can apply, and a blind that he can cast every 30 seconds, and a multi-shot, so now every attack is doing 3 attacks, and then a passive 3% crit chance for him and myself. So you're immediately tripling your chance to apply crowd control here, and he's already applying his own slow, plus he's basically got a crowd control spell on cooldown. In terms of gear, the token is very boring. It's not going to have the stats that you're really looking for with this build, but the weapon and the jewelry will. So that's where you want to focus your money. The token, you're just going to want to maximize vitality and dexterity if you want to. Basically, just a survivability gear slot. Remember, followers are getting a 2.5 times modifier. So 200 vitality is actually 500 vitality when you put it on and off. So he has 1524 here, and I take it off. It's got a 1010. So huge difference in life. So you can really get their life very high. So in terms of stat priorities, this is going to differ a little bit depending upon if you are new to Inferno, new to Act 1, comfortable in Act 1, progressing on higher acts, etc. And that sliding scale is going to determine where vitality for your Scoundrel falls on this list. But my list, because I'm just speedrunning Act 1 at this point, my list is going to start with crowd control procs. That's going to be the most important thing. You can get them on an amulet and the weapon. Now, they cap at 5%, so perfect rolls, you could have a 10% chance to apply some sort of crowd control. And I'll go into this on the auction house, excuse me, when I get there, but generally there's a tier, there's maybe, I would consider 3 tiers, since there's a bunch of crowd control abilities. There's slow and chill, which are horrible, because they're not going to stack with the slows that he's already applying from his cold damage weapon, excuse me, and the slow that he's already naturally applying. And then there's fear, which is basically just going to randomize where the mob ends up after running around in circles for a minute. But your top tier choices are going to be stun and freeze, which are basically locking down the mobs and they're unable to attack. Immobilize and knockback, which are basically going to be taking them out of the action for a bit, but maybe they're still going to be able to cast a spell or an ability if they've got Jailer, Desecrator, Arcane, or Vortex, which would defeat the purpose. So those are your crowd control procs, and they cap at 5%. So you really want to get as high as 5% as possible. They'll appear naturally on weapons, however you have to get one of 2 legendary choices if you want to get it on your amulet. And then I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, there are no set or legendary items that have proc chances on rings. So the stat priority falls as this for me. Crowd control is the highest, followed then by attack speed. Why attack speed? Because it's all about applying the crowd control procs. It's not about adding damage. So if I can get, remember he's shooting 3 arrows per attack. Currently he's at 1.84 attacks per second, so I'm getting very close to 6 arrows a second. Each one of those arrows is applying my crowd control proc chance. So if I had it on, I need to upgrade my amulet to one of those 2 legendaries later today, but if I can get, say 9% between the 2 of these, that 9% times, and a little bit more attack speed, that 9% times 6 arrows, I'm looking at a 54% chance to apply one of my 2 procs every second. That's huge. If all you've got on the screen is an elite pack, or a champ and a bunch of minions, that's going to come in incredibly handy. And you'll see in a little bit of gameplay example, I'll go and shoot at some white mobs for a bit. Okay, priorities. Yeah. Crowd control, followed by attack speed, followed by, depending upon, no, I would just say Magic Find next no matter what, but that's going to get more expensive. And then based upon how difficult you find your farming, Vitality is going to fall into that list somewhere. And then at the very last is going to be Dexterity. That's going to up your damage a little bit, so he's not completely neutered. He might be able to finish something off for you if you're kiting, if it's just got a sliver left. Generally your Blizzards or your Hydra or whatever you're using are going to be able to do that more so than the Scoundrel. So personally I've got 7%, 7%, and 9% on attack speed. 9 is the cap for jewelry, and again that's not going to appear on the token, so you've only got 4 slots to stack your weapon and your jewelry for attack speed. So I could gain another 4% from my rings, and I believe it caps at 11% on weapons. But that's going to be really hard to get when you also want a proc chance and cold damage. I mean, you're extremely narrowing down the field of available weapons by doing those. So any sort of attack speed you can get is great. So I would definitely recommend a bow over a crossbow, because you're starting with a natural 1.4 speed, as opposed to I think a 1.1 speed on a crossbow, two-handed crossbow. And then any sort of bonus vitality you can get is great. As you can see, he's got 60,000 life, which is excellent. He really doesn't die often unless he gets jailed or frozen in something nasty. Since he's applying slows and blinds, he can get himself out of most trouble, especially since, depending upon your DPS, you're gathering the, for lack of a better word, threat of the other monsters. Okay, so that's his gear. I've just gone for, again, attack speed, and I've stacked up a bit of Magic Find. But his 60% Magic Find is only giving me 12, as you know. It's just a 12% contribution, or excuse me, 20% contribution, so it's not a lot. Let's take you over to some white mobs and show you the effect when you've got a fast shooting cold damage with a proc chance. There's the blind he cast, those yellow lights. That's immobilized because it's not advancing on us. He's got the slow on everything, and when they stop in their tracks there, that's when they've been immobilized. But it's pretty rapid fire, and every single one of those arrows, as you can see, they're getting immobilized. And you can imagine how beneficial this would be if these were elites. Getting this sort of free slow applied, in addition to the occasional, you know, for lack of a better word, stun lock. I mean, he can back-to-back these proc chances every once in a while, and then it's way more than enough time than you actually need to finish off a champ or an elite. Okay, let's go take a look at the auction house and some actual gear choices, and give you an idea on budget.